Yeah. So we'll start with a little intro. Welcome to the Insight Open Mic, James Kuhn's My Prosey Memoirs in Verse. I was really happy to have opportunity to connect with some of James's poetry work when we were walking in the summer across Wisconsin on the Drumlin Trail, and he offered a really beautiful evening where we had to start a fire and shared some of this work, and people found a lot of value in what he was striving to do, and so it felt really great. And since he's landed here in Wisconsin and really taken on lots of work with writing and working with the land and chopping trees and things, which is all just a beautiful, beautiful blend of actions. So maybe we can just say hey to everyone in the room. I guess we already did that. Everyone can kind of introduce themselves and where they're calling from, and then I'll just hand it to you. Okay. We can start here. Frank, hello, calling here from Wisconsin.
James, calling from Wisconsin. About to do a reading here.
Also calling from Wisconsin.
Dana from Wisconsin. And
Phil, sitting in Wisconsin.
You guys can hop in as you feel.
Lisa from upstate New York.
Sophia from Pomona, New York.
Glacy from Glenmore, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Switch.
What do you prefer?
You like this one? Sure.
you can be here if you want.
So I guess I'll just jump right in. Here we go. So these are letters. Essentially, they're written in the form of letters to my parents. Start with my father. Dad, I've been wondering who I am and where I'm at in life. I'm drawn to the intricacy and grit and the technique of work well done. A thing of beauty in the works. I'm an artist first, someone said. Maybe that's me. I can sometimes be obsessive about it, actually. So I'll be like honeybees, the holder of the sting, carrier of the flower dust granules in its potential of turning to gold. Maybe that's who I'll become. I don't know if I'm there yet, though, so where am I? I'll dispense with metaphor for a moment and go to the point. Idyllic homes break in time, too, and ours was such a one. I'm here now, and I've got to deal with a pack full of the past I still carry on my back from back then. So then, Mom, Dad, what the hell can I say? What kind of shit can I fling at you? The foundations were set and ready to fracture at the start. Just lay on the pressure. You told me so, Dad. Said you knew it was a mistake as soon as she was pregnant. Well, that's no fucking novelty, and you do have my sympathy, though you're still a classic idiot in the choices that got you there, led by your dick and an empty heart. And I guess that's the reason you committed to being around. You made a promise to yourself, I think. You were sure you'd never be the cliche, the father not part of their lives, our lives, the way you never knew your own, I suppose. So you met Mom, you fed her some line, how you needed a woman to make your lonesome artist soul complete. And you know, to be fair, it's not as if I never feel that way. It's just I have your example to thank for why I don't trust desperation as a reason for long-term decisions. The foundations were set and ready to fracture at the start. Two lonely individuals wandering in their own ways, stuck in the same place. You were cruising around town, surveying the pussy in town. You told it to my brother. Your modus operandi was the only one you ever missed was the one you never had. Well, it's poetic, Dad, in a Bukowski kind of way. There's more to the story, but it's anecdotal, and I don't have the time right now, so sorry if it sounds bitter. You were an artist, and somehow that's all you knew how to do, at least when I came around. Living out of a warehouse in Virginia, crafting with hot glass, turn the fans to blow away toxic off-gas towards the nursing home next door. You're a little joke. I'm not painting the prettiest of pictures, am I? So I hope. I wonder what people will think of you. Were you a callous and careless man? I'm not sure I know who you really were. You were self-absorbed, caught in your moods, your struggles with moms, mine and yours both. So I've been careless and reckless, insensitive, self-absorbed, moody, incapable of connection, quietly, just not giving a fuck. Because for real, I know how to carve a groove and settle in that funk. Thrash around, I'll dig it deeper and deeper. I've been what you are and what you were, but different, and in different ways. You were sensitive too, just self-absorbed. Mom played asteroid in orbit to your planet for so long, I don't know where you got the narcissism from. It's too easy for an ego to produce its own helium once it's got a taste. If that's what makes you hungry when you see it and when you taste it, then maybe you're just predisposed to puff up and preen those damn feathers in the space of your karma, a relative forever. So, Dad. Flop. Your responses to my questions. Hey, Dad, what about grit, discipline, dragging the self out of the dirt? All I hear in your responses to my questions is flop. The substance of your character when I was looking for something to respect and model upon, all I thought was flop. More flab than bone, I wondered who you are. Sometimes you seem just a bit too phony. You wouldn't know how to connect beyond spinning dreams with no threads of reality, playing card games and buying us shit we didn't need. I came to visit in the new house and home you set up with the new family, and it felt just as empty as the one I remember being a teenager in. I think there was more filter than faith that we would love you if we knew the faceless shadows you could carry. And so I never knew you and despised you for it. Mom, on the edge of a storm, I'm above and beyond. Past the trials of the past, I'm above looking down on the swirling of violence. Turn the fans, nope. I'm above looking down on the swirling of violence. In the blue-gray waters, shall I speak of you next? I'm poised at the edge of trials and memory. Mom, brittle as the graham crackers my sister would crumble to bits for pie crust. After Dad left, everything turned from numb to bitter times that year, forth and back and forth. I cared a lot how you were doing when I was a little kid, and there was nothing I knew how to do that could fix your problems. And once this void opened up, I was one of the last regulars living in it with you. You made me the soundboard, the repository for all your gripes, grief, and resentment, threw me in a deluge of your problems. Hopes, fears, and delusions, the fact that you believed in miracles that, frankly, I believed evident to be bullshit. You were brittle, like a broken down dinghy I didn't want to row ashore. But I chose to stay with you because I thought it would be too easy, perhaps decadent with Dad. When I look back, I think I thought I owed you karma. And now that's run its course. The only feeling now is to free myself of and forgive the memories of hurt. I thought you needed someone, so I stayed. And I was afraid for you if I didn't. It's hard to say who is the lifeboat for the other sometimes. Either way, I didn't want to drown with you or because of you. So I did my best to keep you afloat. I remember 5 months or something after he said he was leaving, I had been the unwilling recipient of all the news updates and suspicions you had, the probings, accusations against the family at large, your hopes and fears, the fact that you believed in miracles that were evident to be bullshit, at least to me. The miracles like Dad would see the light and come back to you so that your marriage could spin on a linchpin of miracle morphosis, all for the better. I was the earpiece to hear all that shit for the last 4 3/4 months. You knocked on the door and came into my room one evening, saying, James, I just wanted to tell you that in effect, after all his vacillation, these last 5 months or something since he split, Dad was sure he wanted a divorce. Well, in the state of North Carolina, where I grew up, and both my parents resided at the time, it was legally required for spouses wanting a divorce to undergo separation for a year before the split could be made official. So they tried dating. for a while in the first months of that interim. It was short-lived. Mom, do you think it would be a cliche for me to be sarcastic here? I kind of think it would be. Your face, your manner was all business considerate. Like it was only fair and considerate to keep me informed of the latest in the marital separation news cycle. I just wanted to tell you that it's really going to go through. We're going to separate. A nod of the head to say, this is how it's going to be. A slight tremble in the mouth. I'm about to break down. Can I cry here with you? No. Internally, I considered sympathy. But I knew it would reinforce a binding together of each other in your perspective, one I couldn't tolerate, one that said we were victims of the same issue and we should share each other's struggles because of it. That was some shit I could not let remain. No, you cannot. My entire face and body said, no, that is not welcome. That's not welcome. I'm not taking the highs and lows with you anymore, Mom. I kept my face and eyes fixed blank, my shoulders set, back rigid, fiercely committed to not engaging. I tried not to blink. I want to break the cycle. I'm tired of it. My eyes felt like cold fire. They were probably getting dry. Hey, Mom, Dad. I get tired of talking about y'all, thinking about you sometimes. I've reached a point, though, of recognition, acceptance of the fact that there are millions of nuances in the times of struggle and thrashing against our connection, especially. The bleak moods of hopeless waiting I carried, waiting for when I would be fully adult in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of my mind and body, in the eyes of undying society. Those eyes behold the standards of eternal good, the essence of humanity that makes civilization worth maintaining. And there were and are still articles to be unearthed and remembered, to be seen by these eyes. So becoming aware of them, I become free to adjust the hold they have on me, to change the length of the straps on the backpack I carry, to pack and unpack it how it suits me. I own the story it holds. It's mine. It adjusts to if I tend my time with it, like a lily in bloom, or if I schlep it along like a barrel of bricks. The timelines of waiting, of how that mentality sat, that mentality of bleak moods, how it sat in my being like a stone being skipped across still water in the eddy of a riverbank. The mood of the water there is all about the same, no matter how high or how long the arcs of that stone. Its every touch to the water made ripples too few for me. Somehow muted and quickly diminished, they land as isolated islands of motion in a bay of the river still waiting. And you know what, Dad, Mom, I get tired of talking about myself too. Talking or writing about the struggles of your isolation while in isolation gets to be a boring game. Mom, entrapment is a kind of pain, Mom, and that's what you did with me. It hurts me to use your name, Mom, your parental honorific or whatever it should be called, this epithet, this name that makes it impersonal and hurtful for a parent to be called by their actual name instead of it when it's their kid speaking. It hurts to speak of you as Mom, about how I feel I was used by you. It feels wrong. Something fundamental supposed to be a gold, a jar of honey, clear glass container, was contents empty, absent, in a way I had no way of knowing, until I climbed out of the chamber, my own little scorpion wanting to explore, yet wary in the big world of natural-born humans. I scuttled through and away as much as I could. Perhaps the sting I gave was more frequent than needed. Maybe the jar was one of cyanide, clear and colorless poison. So here are the facts of the matter, in a manner of speaking. Nearly 10 years ago, my father left my family as I knew it. I had never written about that day in particular. I never thought to. Only a few months ago, I realized how close I am to the full decade from it. And the need to consider hit me. It's a story I know damn well, though I don't speak about it or impress it aloud upon my memory in any way. The echoes of this song on replay can haunt me month in, month out, year after year. They live in my reluctance to talk about my life, myself, my interests. They live in the hunger for somebody or something somewhere to soothe the emotional ache of not having what some of them have. When people ask me what I like to do, they notice when I don't mention hanging out, hanging with them, hanging with friends. It's not for not liking social stuff. It's just I don't expect it. It doesn't happen regularly for me, so I don't mention it. I've noticed, people notice, whatever I say or avoid saying, people notice often enough. They get the gist. They pick up the feeling that somehow, in some area of life, I'm sad about something. There's something I keenly miss. Maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, maybe it's human hearts gathered around me. The pen. Maybe it's human hearts gathered around me. I guess I could keep some bottled and pickle jars on the shelf. Try that line at a living room event. See if you hear a pen drop. The sadness goes back to well before the days my father left. It was just that day and the decision he made that punched its floating roots into the soil of my heart with a force I didn't expect. I was shocked and numb. Everything was weird for the rest of the day. What the hell did it mean? Let me be clear. The temptation to revile my dad is there, but what he had to do. Apparently he had stage 4 colon cancer when he left my mom. He didn't tell any of us. And he had told me about this a couple summers ago when I came to visit. It went in one ear and out the other over the course of the next few months. And it came as a complete surprise when my brother informed me about it again this past summer. So here's the story, finally. My dad broke the news of his intent to initiate separation from my mom on February 28, 2011. He had a furnished apartment ready at the back of his office. All my siblings knew it was coming. And these are the facts. My brother Jeremy went to college and stayed away on campus. My sister Jessica got an apartment and set up there. My oldest brother Justin got married to his longtime girlfriend, and they stopped coming around to dinner. The pets were dying. My grandmother was transferred to assisted living. And then one morning, after an appointment at the dentist's, my brother and I came home, and our dad was about to start crying in the kitchen. It was also odd that he was at home at all. Usually he'd be at work. So my brother got there first, and he knew what all was coming. I didn't. I did not. The ceramic vase of home and belonging shared by the others you still wanted to share things with had cracked open, and the shards were not easy to touch.
Oh, jeez. Hi.
Thank you, Sonia.
The ceramic vase of home and belonging shared by the others you still wanted to share things with had cracked open, and the shards were not easy to touch. The water poured out in a tumult that lasted the year. Flowers already wilting, prepared to die or be thrown to the river to find a new life. There was no river. There was no river. Minus the poetics and the details of that day, those are a list of the facts I've used to illustrate how, as some people have said to me, my world fell apart. They are the list of facts I've repeated more times than I'd like, trying to expedite the story, to spend as little time as I could in the social limbo. They're the list of facts I told people, to put it in context quickly, when I still thought I wanted sympathy. If I could just tell them the facts, couldn't they get it from there? For Christ's sakes, why is it so awkward? Something about accepting how you feel, maybe. Something. I guess sharing it in the telling of your story is fundamental. All the facts in the world won't do it. All the facts won't account for the gift of you sharing the view of your heart. Hearts bottled up just aren't the same. Thank you all for listening. Oh, okay.
Thank you, James.
For sure. Thank you all. So,
Took a lot of courage, James.
people say that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
How was the process of writing that for you? Like, would you go into the emotions when you were writing, or was it further removed?
The rewriting was way more emotionally involved because it's like somehow it's me reading my own story, whereas when I was writing it was all about the joy of writing. Like, I'm getting this out. This feels great. Feeling the rhythm and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. You had when he first read it to us, it was in the notebook that he had wrote it in. And so now it's on these typed pages, which that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and there's extra stuff and so on. So yeah. That's usually how it goes. And the typing up I add to it a little bit.
Did you find as you went through it more and more things came into your mind that you had maybe covered up or tried to bury? Or was it always there?
Or just more things to write about?
Well, just the experience when something traumatic happens. Sometimes we bury it, and then when you start to unearth it.
I'd say a mix. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is hard. But it's part of it.
Yeah.
Someone else wants to share.
Anybody else have any thoughts, relations, your own experience, or?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a very overwhelming experience. What a gift that you give. I think, for those who have gone through traumatic experiences with their parents and to hear something so personal and at the same time so universal, it's yeah, I'm very overwhelmed and very touched. Yeah,
Bless you.
thank you so much.
It's nice to hear also the parts that I think you added at the end, and it sort of feels like it's right at the edge where you say something just about sharing. It's better than bottled up than having it bottled up, and
I thought, once I came to that ending, stories are like hearts or pieces of our heart. They don't do well in bottles. They like to breathe. So that's
Yeah, and a lot of people do bottle them up, so that's the courage then, that you're putting it all out on a page and sharing it.
heartage. Heart
Yeah.
power. Yeah. That was your word, remember?
Heart power,
Heartage.
heartage.
James,
maybe one more thing to share. Oh, Lisa has something else. Yeah.
I'm curious, and maybe you can't speak to it right now, but how it feels to have gone through, like how it felt before you went through this process and how it feels now that you've sort of, I think to use your own words, gotten it out of you.
Yeah.
Is it something you can look on differently in this new place?
Do you mean my experiences with my family? Looking on that? Or
Yeah, now that you've gone through, I mean, it's pretty powerful, these 2 letters that you wrote. And I'm trying to imagine myself as a parent receiving a letter like that. I don't know whether you've sent them or not, but I just tried to live into like receiving that.
Yeah.
And because I think it was just so raw and honest what was living in you, and the way you expressed it was kind of raw and honest, and direct. And so Mike, I'm curious how you're living with it now. Do you feel a sense of some degree of freedom?
Yeah, I think it's continuing. And yeah, I do. I think, yeah, I do want to, there's more to write. And I've talked to some people about it before. I think more to write is another piece to consider, is that the story of learning, of coming to tell the story itself is important, and that's transforming something. And I really appreciate doing that. I feel like that in and of itself transforms the story itself, I suppose. And yeah, I feel more free. I'm touched to hear it touch other people. And that's encouraging, I guess. That's the main thing. It's encouraging. So, thank you all. Yeah.
I was going to say too, I just in general, when you have that courage and your ability is so great to write and express it so clearly, that it actually brings healing to others who aren't able to do that. So I thank you.
Thank you, Phil. I just want to reference courage is going around a lot, especially with encouragement. There's like courage going back and forth between people. So that's maybe important point to remember. Anyone else have anything? Sophia, Lisa Gleisi?
I need a moment.
Sure. Otherwise, we've got.
I also wanted to bring one more part. Yeah, I thought we had been talking about this writing journey. Maybe you want to give like just this context of it's cool because you also spoke to this 10 years picture.
Yeah.
And we had been talking about where is this journey leading James, and the experience of telling your story, and what does that do for you to share it, and what does it offer for others. And this is all part of that journey. And at a certain point, James was like, I think I'm done with this story, or I just want to create new stories or go to something else. But then it kind of changed. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was on my birthday, actually. I said that. I was like, oh, everything's so nice. I'm fine. I don't need to do this. And and then it changed, on the day itself. I just realized, I guess, part of the journey in telling a story is coming into your own, right? Coming into your own voice and really using it more, with more intention. And I had an experience where I realized, oh, damn it. It's not where I want it. I'm not really, using my voice to the full extent of the capacity that I actually have. And that's a shame. And that's where I realized it's a continual work in process, of course, and do whatever you can. Or in my case, whatever I can, I'll continue to do whatever I can to use it as a tool for serving service. And yeah. And does that answer your question? I think it's
no, yeah.
and
for sure.
ultimately being a more present human being. Yeah, beyond, that's the thing, you know, beyond the art, beyond the writing, beyond the accolades, what, you know, the praise is being a human being and being a friend, being relative to people, relating to them, relational, right? So it touches me to know it touches others. And
It's interesting. Steiner talks in the curative course on lecture 9 about the spirits, the genius of language. He talks about the pedagogical law and how in order to heal the ego, the I, you have to appeal to the spirit self, and how the genius of language are one of those. And speech is in the realm of the spirit self, and how one can use and call upon this genius of language to be able to heal the other bodies. And when you talk about poetry, when you write about pain, there is something of that is a universal law, that it's the characteristic of it, of sharing something so personal. But when people go through similar traumas, they evidently relate to it, but not everybody has that gift of actually writing and turning into poetry pains and woes, and actually the laws, the cosmic laws of pain and woe. So for me, poetry, it's a incredible gift, especially when it's shared in such a beautiful, simple, and heartfelt language. And that's one reason why I work with words too, because for me, it has a step up in terms of lifting my own issues into a realm where there is a truth to it, and it's beyond emotions that I think can heal, for your own healing, but not mainly, but also for the healing of others. And there are so many little nuances in your poem that I relate to, that I have been struggling with. And when it's put in the way that you have expressed it, it makes it visible. And to know that somebody else, goes through the same kind of issues and is actually able to express oneself, it's very powerful. I'm just, very grateful for you to have the courage to not only write, but to also share.
I want to give props to Frank on that. Well, Frank, I can think of, this is like 3 guys in my life over the past year. Frank, Stefan, and friend Kai Nawar, who all gave me like particular points of sort of critical support, like important, encouraging shoves in the right direction. And yeah, in this case, Frank, on our journey, our walking journey out here in Wisconsin, I described my question for the Classroom Alive is basically what I've said, becoming freer through biography and storytelling. So he kept making sure I was doing that, giving me support and encouragement to do it, because I tend to, use the whole, I don't want to take people's time. I don't want to take so much time talking about myself, because, it's an example of self-importance in a way that I try to be careful of not indulging, as I said in the piece. It's an example of my father that I did, being a self-important artist wasn't what I wanted to be. So I needed encouragement. I needed somebody to tell me it was okay. And I've continued to do that and check in. Important.
Sure. Yeah, it's a big journey. I think for me, it feels really, on a deep biographical level, a part of then coming to this house, it's like, for me, it was like you telling that story on this walk was very connected to like the next steps of your destiny continuing. And that's like a whole other story happening, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe also Matre had a role. Was he?
Yeah. He was leading the workshop. Yeah, where I started writing this piece. Yeah, that's right. It's four people.
It's good to the writing workshop.
So, if you all have your writing implements and you're interested to engage in a little writing exercise yourselves, my prompt is essentially that you write a letter. It doesn't have to be to your parents. It could be to a collective of people if it's both your parents, or it could be to an individual. The main element to consider is that you have something to say that speaks to something unresolved. You need to look at an unresolved issue, essentially. Something you need to say. And then you just, and you allow yourself to be as free with your language as you like, free with your perspective as you like. See, in my case, I tried to make it relative and contextual, and maybe that helps. Maybe you do that naturally, and if so, by all means. But if not, don't just write.
What do you mean relative?
I mean, relative, like I would compare my experience to what is the regular norm and so on, and like make it relative and say, just you don't need to be apologetic for your experience. That's the main point. So we're gonna take, I'm not sure how much time we have.
We're doing really good. We're at 11:43, so we could go to 45 or 12:05.
Okay, so we
20
got
minutes.
20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes. And you can sit wherever you like. You don't have to be in front of the computer. We don't have to look at each other while we're writing. And
Turn your screen's off.
you can turn your screen off if you want, if that makes you comfortable. Your audio, probably should do. Actually, we're gonna do that.
That'll be maybe a 5-minute warning, and then
Okay.
1
Yeah.
minute.
I love it.
Give it a shake.
All right. All right.
Grab your pen.
We may begin. Commence at will.
It's if people need more time, and then we do less sharing. But
Well, yeah, small groups or people are okay with going over.
there's 10 minutes left. It's fine. We can go back to it after. Yeah. Right. Thank you. We have about 10 minutes here, and I think wanted to just give a little room. It's not really enough to share, what's coming in, but
Unless people want to go over.
yeah, we could do a time check to see if people would want to go over maybe like for 20 more minutes, if that works, or if anyone has a hard stop. In 10. Yeah, you're good for that. Everyone else good for?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe the floor is just open if anyone wanted to share a experience or want to read something. Yeah.
Well, with time, I guess the question is if people want to. The question is if people want to meet another time to share what they've actually written and talk about it more in depth, or do that now. Because if we do that now, it's probably a lot more over. So the original idea was just to share your experience of the process and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to reference what you wrote, you can reference a short section or something like that.
But maybe you have a sense something like for each person to revisit, and
right, we can end with that.
Yeah, you can also connected to James's not reading, but that he had this hope around the end of the month, this the 10-year.
Oh, right. Well, if people wanted to share what they had to write at another point and go into it deeper, that we could have another open Zoom meeting near the end of the month, either on the 27th or the 28th. For me, that's the 28th of February is a full decade. So that's full big news.
Yeah.
Good to me if it's good for you on that date.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
Is that farm meeting?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay.
We could do it earlier in the morning.
Or maybe it's the next week or the next open mic.
Anyway,
Be then.
the point is, the floor is open for people to share their experience of this writing exercise. And you can reference your material a little bit. Dana?
Well, I
Okay. So I found it quite easy to write, actually. So I don't know if that's the format or if you warmed us up, James, or with the courage. So it was flowing. I'm not, I guess, prepared to read it at the moment, but do you want more?
Anything you got, yeah. Anything you're comfortable, sure. We want to hear.
Let's see. Yeah, so I wrote to my dad, and there are many unsaid things to him, and I kind of came to a new perspective, which was a bit of a surprise. So I thank everybody for the opportunity and for sharing.
Dana.
Oh,
If you want.
well, I guess I'll just say, similar to Dana, it did open up some writing that James and I have talked about actually in time we spent together, and it was a little surprising how it just poured out of me a little bit. I don't think I have anything I wrote to myself, and I guess I have a long way to go. But I knew that, but I thank everybody, and I thank James and Frank and everybody who helped James to get to this point. Because like I said earlier, I think unbottling his heart actually allows many other hearts to heal, and I'm grateful. Thanks, James, and everyone else.
Thank you.
I also wrote to myself, and I noticed it went from like a U to a I. And yeah, I just thought that's interesting. Like, what is the way to speak into the I or the U? And I wanted to keep going back to the U, but it just was really in the I, and didn't know how far I'd get, but seemed like, yeah, it seemed good to check in. Yeah, also carry this, and feels like there's something in the word that's more living, like a different way to work with it. So yeah, I'm also grateful. Sherry's ready to offer something also.
Okay.
Staying in the room here.
Yeah, I also found it a good prompt. It got me writing pretty quickly. So thank you for that, James. I felt like I just got started. I was surprised how quickly 20 minutes went. And I felt like, okay, I have a lot more to say. Yeah, I also don't feel ready to share. I was a little bit surprised who I started writing to. I guess I was thinking of what's unresolved, and yeah, ended up writing to this person that I kind of thought I had resolved things with, but then felt like, no, maybe there's more to say. And that kind of brought me also to an idea of a writing project I could do, which I don't quite have James's courage right now to write it all up, but I had this time I spent in Cameroon, which was a very emotional experience for me in many ways. And I realized I could do a story series from that because I have a hard time communicating it or sharing it. And yeah, I started writing to this person called Parfait today, who I don't know if he would understand what I had to say, but I was like, this feels good. I need to put this on paper. And so it seems like something I'll continue to do. And thank you for that, James, also for your courage to get into that space.
Does anybody on the other end of the camera have thoughts?
Yeah, Lacey here. For me, it was also very easy to start into it. I think you really gave me a lot of food and nourishment in a way that I used a metaphor that I didn't expect, which was very telling, and it's probably going to keep unfolding, of a butterfly and a caterpillar in relationship to my mother and I. So it was quite telling. And I wrote in a poem form, which was also surprising to me. But yeah, it was, yeah, I think it's very telling and deep. Yeah.
Lisa or Sophia?
I have something I would like to share, because this exercise is really timely in a way that I think you couldn't have expected, James. But there's a long lineage in my family of various kinds of traumas. And I'm presently navigating with my adult nephews a divorce, alcoholism, and the possible loss of his children. And so it's been a couple months of conversations trying to make sense of things. And my writing took me to a letter to my ancestors, because there's 6 generations of stuff that have gone on. You know, my ancestors lived through the Ukrainian genocide. They were part of World War I. They were impoverished coal miners during a time when their lives were owned by the coal barons and the company store. Some of them were born in the Great Depression. Some of them went through World War II. So these kind of historical traumas stand behind a long line of also alcoholism, addiction, violence, etc. And I started asking them questions. Did you know when you fled violence that your drinking would inflict that violence on your wife and children? Did you know that your opioid addiction would inflict emotional pain that your grandchildren are now struggling to heal? And I started to wrestle with this piece of how complex these issues are, that we have what we experience in our families, but there's also what culture and history have visited upon whole generations or whole nations that weave their way into that. And as I was writing, I was reminded of this scene. Thornton Wilder wrote a play called The Angel That Troubles the Water, and it's based on a Bible verse from John, in which an angel touches the water of a pool, and when someone steps into that pool, they're healed instantaneously. And in this story, a physician wants to get into the pool because of the great emotional pain and soul pain that he has. And the angel prevents him from getting in the pool. The angel says, "Draw back, physician. Healing is not for you." And the physician begs and pleads. He outlines all the flaws in his heart, and all the shame that he bears over this, and how everything he tries to do just kind of sinks halfway. And the angel says, and he's asking the angel, he's saying, "Surely you can see this. Surely you see my flaws." And the angel says, "I know." And then this is probably the most important line, and I have it. I wrote it out, but I have it memorized. I just don't trust my memory. The angel says, "I know. Without your wound, where would your power be? It is your very remorse that makes your low voice tremble in the hearts of men. The very angels themselves cannot persuade the wretched and blundering children of earth, as can one human being broken on the wheels of living. In love's service, only the wounded soldiers can serve. Draw back." And so there's this big question for me that is unresolved, which is, what is the role of all this pain? Because it seems that most people I meet suffer some kind of pain. And it's often on the order, James, of what you wrote about. It's not small stuff. And so what's unresolved for me is why, and I think that Thornton Wilder gave that a lot of thought and was trying to move in that direction with this play, work with that question with this play. But yeah, I'm struck by how many people were touched by what you offer, James. And I think it also speaks to this, that the pain has a role has some kind of role in collective healing. And that, for myself, I think I still have to keep working with that. I don't have it all resolved for myself.
Thank you, Lisa. So glad to hear that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Okay, so we will.
Sophia, I just wanted to check in. I mean, no pressure, but if you're interested, make any comment. Otherwise, we'll be closing up.
I'd like to say something. I think it was really powerful to kind of be given a space to reflect and kind of grapple with these unresolved things. Because I think it's so different, like writing versus like thinking about it and like, yeah, getting it out somewhere else outside of yourself. And then being able to reflect onto that felt really powerful. So thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
So we'll let people know about the reading date. I mean, maybe we can just see, do people feel like they would want to reach for some sort of process in a little bit of time to share, or join James's reading? I guess we can make a big open space however you want it to be, and see, and we'll just check in. You can reach out if you feel like it, or we'll form an invitation.
Schedule,
Schedule it.
Do an invitation for the 27th or 28th. But I guess part of that is what works for the people here, since y'all are here. Like, are there any preferences for it's the Saturday or Sunday?
For me, Saturday works better.
Okay, yeah. It's kind of what I was aiming for.
I can do either day, so it should be decided by other people's needs.
Okay. Yeah, the 10 days. 10 days. 10 years.
It's the 20.
10 big
Seven.
days.
7.
This is 28th. Sorry.
28.
Sorry, you can do either, Lisa? Yeah, so 27th sounds good. Sophia, how about you?
Yeah, either day works for me.
Great. Okay. So, all right. So,
I'd probably rather the 28th, but
okay.
could be.
All right. Well, sorry.
That's okay.
Schedule something. So, I'm just going to close with a Emily Dickinson poem and verse for America. So, you got the verse?
I have it written down,
Or
I could pretend I know it.
Oh, I thought you knew it. Sorry.
Kind of know it.
Very good.
I'm trying to know it.
You know it?
You're saying you're trying to know it?
Yeah.
Kind of know it.
Pretend.
Yeah.
Frank, you can paraphrase. You can say what you know, and sort of that will work, because your heart will be with the verse, even if you don't have it memorized.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
So this is a short poem by Emily Dickinson. I feel it speaks to, mostly speaks to what we've been discussing. But for me, it leaves a question at the end, exactly, well, as to what is, I guess, resolution and healing. They say that time assuages. Time never did assuage. Is that how you pronounce that?
Tobias reads this poem too. Does that learn?
Yeah. How do you pronounce
You
that?
might have said assuage.
Assuage.
Assuage. They say that time assuages. Time never did assuage. An actual suffering strengthens, as sinews do with age. Time is a test of trouble, but not a remedy. If such it proved too, there was no malady.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, James.
May our feelings penetrate into the center of our hearts and join in love with others seeking the same goal, and with spirit beings who, looking down upon our earnest, heartfelt striving and illuminating our love, are looking down upon our earnest, heartfelt striving and illuminating our love. Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Thank you,
Thank
Thank
Frank.
you, Frank.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
Frank.
hosting.
So,
Thank you, everybody.
Burns,
Yeah. Thank you
Thanks
all
for
coming.
joining.
Yeah.
This was a lovely space.
You.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too. Take care. Keep on thinking. I don't know. Telling stories.
Bye.
I know.
Some love.
We're the last ones here.
I know I wanted to just stay and visit for a minute.
You good?
Awesome.
Very good.